Now, these are, as promised from Hasbro Pulse, a brand new set of images of our Transformers Victory Generations HasLab Deathsaurus. These are the promised color images that they were going to be showing us of this brand new HasLab product. And keep in mind, though, that these are color render images. And what color render images are is that it's not the actual toy itself. Essentially what they did is they took the resin prototype renders that we got before, which really pop all the details with the gray prototype resin, and then they photoshopped the intended colors onto it. And I do stress intended colors because this is something that Hasbro has done historically for years. They've always done color renders of their product, and then they put that out there usually as the stock images for a lot of stuff. I mean, a recent example being like, let's say, a Legacy RC that I'll pop on the screen right here and show what the color renders were that was used for stock photos, and then the final product. And you can see right away that there is minor differences between how the colors look for the final product. Sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. I mean, to give a HasLab example, there was HasLab Unicron's color renders that we were given, and what the final colors were slightly different. And probably the biggest contention with all of that was the Planet Mode's Maw and how that wasn't colored in, despite the fact what the color renders showed us, and then the drama that came from that, of course, afterwards. Not to mention, Toy Hacks, aka Repro Labels, they made some money, so it didn't matter in the end. They made their money with little upgrade repaint kits. But the point being is that you got to take these color renders with a grain of salt sometimes. They're more suggestions because this isn't the actual product that we're looking at. These are colored in photo renders and stuff like that using Photoshop or whatever program du jour they use at Hasbro. But it does give us an idea, at least. It does give us an idea of the direction they're going. And I am happy to say that it's all pretty on the mark, which is very good. Also, a lot of the photos that they showed us, while some of them are just straight up color rendered repaints of the previous photos that we got before, they just photoshopped those old photos. Some of these are also brand new photos that they took of different angles and different poses and stuff like that that are pretty cool. It's the first time that we're finally really getting to see Deathsaurus kind of holding the living metal destroying cannon. I mean, he's kind of holding it up right there, but at least it's the first time we get to see him holding it in some shape or form, and I guess it shows us the scale in the process too, so it is more or less like the original one. The alt mode looks pretty good too. The colors are pretty on match there. Lion breast and eagle breast look pretty good also. I keep calling them by their Japanese names. What is it? Lion chest and eagle chest. They look pretty good. We got a brand new shot of the back of eagle breasts Falcon mode. We don't have, or Falcon mode, Eagle mode. We don't have a color shot of Eagle breasts gun mode, which we saw like in the resin prototypes, but I'm pretty sure we'll probably see that at some point. It's all pretty good. It all looks really nice. I like the coloring that they did on the extras for the I guess we'll call it the second tier and third tier backer stuff. The living metal destroying cannon, straight up 100% color accurate, more or less. Maybe the tip of the barrel could be more of a darker kind of silvery gunmetal gray. But again, these are color renders, so maybe it'll be correct in the final product, and what we're seeing is just a suggestion. So, but otherwise, pretty dead on what they got there. I like what they did. Same thing with the mace. The mace was respectfully done. The hilt having the maroon handle pieces, the gold for the chain and the other parts of the handle, and then the mace itself. Like it's all pretty accurate, and I'm very impressed that they did that. Even the throne itself, which is the throne that was located inside the Thunder Arrow, his giant ship, or as we call him in the West, Skystalker with the Micromasters. That maroon coloring with the Decepticon emblem on there, pretty accurate. So it's looking good. Again, but these are color renders, so we could only get so much excited about them. All we could take away from this that we're seeing more or less is this is what they're aiming for. The colors in these specific areas, this is what they're aiming for. How it's going to turn out, how is that plastic going to sit, and how the color is going to turn out, that's a whole other story. That's where we could then get more excited on how the final product looks. Renders really are just a suggestion, and we've had these literally for, geez, I mean, the first time we really saw renders were like as early as like Robots in Disguise 2001, aka Car Robots, were some of the first ever like color renders for Transformers, and they never really look like the final product. They're much more of a suggestion, if anything. And even like more than 20 years later, it still is never 100% accurate. And again, going back to something like HasLab Unicron, stuff sometimes does get left out because sometimes they do these color renders and then they don't realize how the mold ends up, and then the gang molding with the colors and everything and how it works out on the sprue and the assembly in the factory. And that's where we get a HasLab Unicron situation. And this could potentially happen here too. So just keep that in mind too. I think we have to wait for when we get some in-hand shots, some final like test shots in full color with the deco added, and then we could truly be excited and feel, okay, this turned out really well. Because at the end of the day, these are really, at the end of the day, just the proto-resins with some Photoshop on them. Which, in all honesty, I mean, I've seen some pretty stellar fan versions of it long before Hasbro did these. Shout out to Repugnicron, who was one of the first guys to do like a color Photoshop of the resin proto. So again, it is what it is, but it's that. Another thing too, since we last talked, I mean, it's gone up 200 backers, so we're at like 9,100 more or less as of this recording. Obviously, it could go up since then. So it's gone up, 2 days, 200, so about 100 people a day more or less. We're closing, still plenty of days left to close in on that 11,000. So it will get backed. That I'm not worried about. It will get backed. It's just, with the addition of the Pacific Rim stuff that we've already gotten, and now Mexico has been opened up as of, I think, yesterday or the day before that, maybe we could close in on that 14,000 for the first tier and get the mace and the cannon. Maybe. I feel like 17,000 might be a bit of a stretch. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe people just aren't really as excited for a throne. So maybe if it doesn't happen, you might just have to get comfortable with paying for all of this and not getting your throne/stand. But it is what it is. Like I always say, it is what it is. But still pretty cool. Again, I think it looks great. I just think that the value is still a little tight for a lot of people. And I feel for them. You know what I mean? This isn't something that is going to affect my bank account. But I know a lot of Transformer collectors that this is something that is a little outside of their budget. And it's going to be a tough one for them because, something like Unicron is really kind of like a black swan kind of event. I don't think we're ever going to go back to another Unicron scenario where we're going to get a big crazy item. But stuff like this, look, we get our Titan classes, we get our commanders. This stuff is not out of the question sizing and scaling. And the fact that we get super obscure characters in retail, and yet this is reserved for HasLab. Again, you've heard my elevator pitch about how I feel about all of this anyways. It's still awesome. I love Deathsaurus. I love Transformers Victory, but the price always will be my sticking point for a lot of people, and including myself. It's always been like, it could have been a little cheaper. But it is what it is. Hopefully we'll learn more about this. Maybe we'll get some in-hand color images and everything like that. Tomorrow is Saturday. We got the Saturday night Transformers Slag podcast live stream. We have a whole bunch of stuff we got to talk about, Hasbro stock, all kinds of updates and everything. We're going to save it for the live stream because it's a lot of digging in the weeds. And of course, the super chats that the fans will send also. A lot of good stuff. I hope to see you tomorrow, Saturday night. And take care of yourself and enjoy the weekend.